everybody. This is Justin back with I'm Your Aid Astrology. And I'm going to do something a little bit different this week, opposed to my weekly updates, which I haven't been doing as often. But I wanted to offer something that would be a good takeaway for the times that we're in. I've noticed ever since Neptune has gone into retrograde back on June 23rd, and it's going to be in there for quite some time. We're looking at about 160 days. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a long time for a retrograde period. It's a slower moving planet, so that's the reason for that. But the one thing I noticed instantly is one, traditionally, when Neptune's in retrograde, the veil tends to be a little bit thinner than normal. And we tend to, and because of that, we tend to embody a lot more emotion. And with all the eclipses we've had recently, and we've had a strong string of them, June 5th, we had the lunar eclipse, full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, followed by the new moon eclipse in Cancer, and that was actually a solar eclipse, and Cancer is a very emotional sign. And then recently, over the 4th of July weekend, we had the prenumeral lunar eclipse in Capricorn, which is probably the least heavy one of all those cycles for Capricorn and Cancer. But I think just because of the weight of everything going on in the world, it still was felt maybe more intensely than it would just be on paper. So with that being said, it's a time of the veil being thin, emotions are on high. And for me personally, and I have some other planets in my chart to suggest this, but I tend to be a lot more empathic than I would like to be. And I'm already pretty intensely affected there. So it was interesting. I was going to the gym on the 23rd, and I felt like, and this is the same case for me since then, I feel like when I get within a few blocks of my house, I could just feel the weight. I could feel the agitation of people driving around me. It's almost unbearable. And the reason why I say within a few blocks of my home is I go through great lengths to keep my space protected. One of my mentors, Ashley, growing up, she talks about how it's very important to put your spiritual bossy pants on. And, with that, I do a lot of energy work, and I do a lot of readings, and I incorporate a lot of energy into readings. I often say a prayer when I first combine my energies with someone's chart, because even though I don't do live readings, and a lot of that's for that reason, is my empathic pull. But you're still working with their frequency. So you have to create, from a shamanic perspective, a strong container to share. So I go through great lengths to protect my space. And even to when I go abroad, there's a lot of rituals that I put myself through, or I arm myself with as much spiritual empowerment as I can. Because I'm a sensitive. I'm really sensitive. And I know a lot of people I've read for recently, we share that characteristic together. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about Neptune retrograde, in its full entirety. I wanted to give something back and how to arm ourselves during this period. And when I feel like with the eclipses, and this is not an astrology understanding, this is just how my spiritual understanding of things is, when you have eclipses with a Neptune retrograde, the veil is already thin with Neptune. And I believe eclipses open up portals. Depending on the eclipse, it could be a good portal, and there could be a challenging portal. When you lower the veil, it's kind of fair game. As much as we're in the world at large facing a lot of controversy, what's really driving that is there's a spiritual war going on. There has been for eons. So with that being said, I'm going to take you through about 5 different tips that I use to empower myself. And, you don't have to use this for Neptune retrograde season. Please, if any of these feel like they're a contribution, use them into your daily practice. There's also some undertones of Mars square Mercury and Chiron. So the next 3 weeks or so are going to be really intense, really argumentative, really aggressive. People will be really blunt. They're not going to think before they talk. When you talk about Mercury and Chiron, traditionally that deals with toxic thoughts. So, the timing of this video is going to be twofold. It's going to arm you against in the Neptune retrograde, the eclipses, because the eclipses, it's not like the eclipse happens that day and it's over. Depending on the energy of the eclipse, it could last for a number of weeks, in some cases up to 6 months. So that's a lot to deal with. And, we have just been through a shitstorm, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically this year, and I think we could all use a little bit of help. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is it's pretty traditional. Anyone that is in the spiritual or esoteric wisdom teachings is very familiar with the idea of sage and Palo Santo. And I have some here. I have my white sage, and then you could pick up on Amazon, Whole Foods. There's a great website called Shaman's Market. I urge you to check out. And then you have Palo Santo. So I use these in 2 different ways. So for Palo Santo, I use for cleansing small spaces, or like a small space around you before meditation, before prayer. If you have an altar, you can sit on the altar. Palo Santo doesn't burn as generously as white sage does. So you can use it, but you'll burn through these pretty quickly, and it'll take you a lot longer to sage. So the one thing I found interesting early in my spiritual career is the use of sage. People know the general understanding of it and how to use it, cleanse your body, the room around you. But I found interesting that no one really knows how to sage properly. So I'm going to go through the steps, and I learned this really early in my spiritual wisdom teachings, we'll call it. And there's a couple things that you need to do before you actually bust out the sage, and that's prep. So the first thing that you're supposed to do, so I'll give this to you even if you live in an apartment, if you live in the house, it's the same kind of theories. What you want to do is you start and you close every window in the house. And then wherever you're starting from, if you're starting from your entry door, going to your back door, where let's say that most people's kitchen is, if you start at the front, the very back door of the house, or the furthest window of the house, you want to close all the windows in the house and leave the back window open about 2 inches. Okay? Because what you want to do is you want to push, almost like a stream of water. You want to push this energy throughout the house, and you don't want it to escape in other places. Now, to further amplify that is after you close all the windows and you leave the back window open a crack, you want to open all the doors in your house. Doors meaning in your bedroom, if you have a dresser, open those doors. The closet doors. If you have a medicine cabinet, open the medicine cabinet. If you keep your, in the kitchen, all the doors open. Open your refrigerator door, open your oven, open your microwave. This is not something that's typically taught, but this energy, what I call them critters, they could hide anywhere in the smallest places. So you want to eliminate any place that they could hide. So anything that has a door or an entry, or even your jewelry box, open your jewelry box. Every bathroom, every door in the entire house. Okay. So now you're in the front of the house and you're going to work your way back. You're going to light your sage. And honestly, some people like the sage, the whole thing. Like, you could do that. But what I actually find that's better is you break off smaller pieces. And one, it doesn't take as much to light. It actually lasts longer than you would just burning the whole thing. And you actually get a better ignition for the smoke. Okay. So now you start in the front of the house, and now you're going to work from every wall. You know, like when you're a kid and you're taught to draw, you draw an outline. So you go along the wall, down the baseboard, up the wall, over the trim, right? So you color, you do an outline of the box, and then you color in the wall. So I know I'm doing this on my computer screen, but this is how I want you to work. Pretend my computer screen is a wall. Okay. So now you're going to go from the front of the house to every wall. That way you outline the wall and then you color it in. Right. As you get to the back of the house, it's going to freak you out a little bit, but you're going to feel the pushback of energy. You get the atmosphere is going to feel heavier, and you're going to push this energy all the way out until you get to that 2-inch opening. You blow it out and you shut your window. If you have a 2-story house, you'll keep the bottom of the house windows closed. And let's say the upstairs, you have like a bedroom or something. The furthest bedroom, you're going to open that for 2 inches. And you're going to push everything up the stairs and out of the house. Again, Palo Santo for smaller areas like your meditation. Quite honestly, you probably want to do a full sage of the entire house, and then do a smaller one for your actual prayer time or meditation time. So that is actually the proper way to share. And then once you do a full cleanse, then you can go through your entire house and close everything. Close the fridge, the microwave, the kitchen cabinets, bathroom cabinets, your dressers. And then, and even when you're going through the dresser, go in the drawer and wave it like a wand. Go into the fridge, right? Go into the microwave. It was a little too difficult for me to do, the video with my selfie stick. I felt like it'd be really, really difficult to pull off. So hopefully this is enough explanation into that. There's also tools in which you could use for protection. So for me, I always have black tourmaline. And this is like a repellent. So tourmaline works really well for negative energy. It will kind of absorb it and then reflect. So black tourmaline is pretty cheap. You can get these for $9 or $10. I always wear these. Most people don't recharge these. So I always keep this, after a couple of days of use, I keep this in my amethyst. So, this is my my mega amethyst. So I put all of my jewelry under it to cleanse. But also I keep these in as many rooms of the house as I can, and especially rooms that have electronics. This always helps, especially during Mercury retrograde periods, the funkiness. Um, so what these do is it draws energy in and then it transmutes it. So, think of like this being a huge mosquito repellent. The mosquitoes come in and they get zapped. Or think of it as like, that's really heavy, water purification system, right? The water comes in, it goes through the reverse osmosis cycle and comes back out as pure and clean. I definitely keep an amethyst where I spend a lot of my time, especially in any places I do shamanic work or meditation. And then where I spend most of my time behind the computer doing readings. I have this just to the right of me when I'm doing my astrology readings. And also in rooms where I sleep. So this is, you don't need as big as this. You don't need a heavy hitter like this guy. But if you place them in the rooms where you occupy a lot of your time, or in rooms you have heavy electronics, not to say you're going to avoid Mercury retrograde issues, but this will certainly help dissipate the magnitude in which you experience that. And there's also selenite. I have a selenite stick. I forgot to bring it into the reading, but I like to put the selenite sticks on the windowsills at night. So let's talk about, those are physical tools that we could use for protection. There's also the most powerful tool, in my opinion, is the frequency of language. That's why things like prayer and meditation or affirmations are incredibly beneficial. Your words have tremendous power. So those of you, I know a lot of you are Reiki practitioners. Let's say you don't have access to sage. Let's say you're in lockdown, you can't get it. So what you want to do is draw the power symbol on your hands, chokere, 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 chokere. And what you want to do is draw the power symbol, chokere, 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 on every wall, ceiling, and floor, and in front of every window and mirror. So if you don't have access to some of these physical tools, and you use your own energetic power to do that, make sure you do protection over your body first before you do anything else. But what if you're not a Reiki practitioner? What if you're not a Reiki master? That's okay. So in your mind's eye, what you could do is a couple things. You could do the love protection prayer. So the way that works is this mainly works with entry points, because to me, mirrors and water are portals. So all of the entry points of your home, so a classic one would be a window or a bathroom mirror, right? What you want to do is put your hand clockwise, starting at 12 o'clock. And, we use the idea of the Trinity. And you'll have two statements on this. You'll say, this house is protected with love. This house is protected with love. This house is protected with love. You shall not pass. You shall not pass. You shall not pass. So you would do that at every entry point, windows, doorways, every doorway actually, and then mirrors. Not to be paranoid, what I like to do at nighttime is I like to put a cloth over my flat screen TV or computer monitor. That's not just for Big Brother. That's just for, it's a form of a mirror. So I don't want, you guys don't need to go crazy on this, but I'm just kind of giving you all the tools that you can do if you're definitely limited with resources. Another thing to do when you travel, in your car, you could do the power symbol on your mirrors, your car mirrors, or you could do the love prayer in your mirrors as well. Or what you want to do when you get into your vehicle, or even when you're walking around by yourself. Let's say you don't have access to tourmaline and some of these other things I showed you. In your mind's eye, just close your eyes and picture yourself in two ways. Either a golden egg. A golden egg is basically a way to fortify your energy system. Our light field is about 8 feet in diameter around us. So, measure out about 8 feet around you and picture yourself in your mind's eye in a golden egg. That's going to give you an extra layer of protection. If you want to completely shut your channel off, which sometimes you can do, you're not going to receive anything, but you're not going to really have to deal with anything challenging. Is same thing in your mind's eye in an 8-foot cylinder. Put yourself in a silver or copper egg, and what that will do is it will completely just shut off your channel altogether. When I mean channel, I mean the channel of energy that comes through your crown chakra and through your root chakra. So we're energy beings. We're always receiving light and energy. So golden egg for just general protection, and then you want the silver or copper egg just to completely shut down your channel. So those of you that do spiritual work, that do readings or Reiki and stuff like that, you probably don't want to go that route because it's going to interfere with your ability to channel the energy. And then last but not least, I'm going to give you a couple clearing statements. These are a little tricky to explain because people get caught up in the language of it. And I'm not going to get into much of the principles of it. There's 2 clearing statements that I've learned early in life. It's through a modality called access consciousness. And it's the ability to, there's 2 acronyms that are spoken in the clearing statement. And it's kind of strange because it's going to sound like a bunch of gibberish. The 2 statements are POC and POD. And POC is point of creation, where thoughts originally manifest. And POD is point of destruction. There's a belief that a good amount of our thoughts don't belong to us because we are an antenna for information. So either our thoughts come from another source, they come from earthbound spirits that tend to be passing by, they come from energy attachments that stick onto your energy. And those of us that have gone through a tremendous amount of trauma, there's holes and fragments in our light field. And what those get filled with are really your responsibility. Either we fill them with light, the wound is the place for light to enter, or it gets occupied by, I call them energy attachments. I call them critters. You think like mosquitoes getting onto you and they start sucking on your blood. And more extreme examples is, I am a practicing shaman, so I work with depossession and psychopomp. And it's the idea that people's energy field could be so dissipated that something lives through them vicariously. And it starts with trauma, because when severe trauma occurs, pieces and parts of our soul essence get fragmented and they escape. And they hide in 3 worlds to kind of preserve themselves. And it's the role of the shaman to take those lost soul parts and reintegrate them back to the person. I know the power of this. So the reason why I learn shamanic training is throughout my life, I've had a lot of trauma, which is why I'm also an astrologer. I've actually had personally 12 soul retrievals in my existence. So it's really a great way to take your power back. And God knows we're losing a lot of it these days. So anyways, not to get off on a tangent of shamanic principles or ideologies, there's two clearing statements that I'll share with you. One is lower level. It's if you're empathic and you've, walked through a cloud of crap and you don't have all these tools and you want to relieve yourself of these energies. I'll give you how this works. If you want to find the truth of everything, put truth before the question. The question empowers the clearing statement, disempowers the energy. So I'll just run through a clearing statement, then I'll explain what happens afterwards. Say to yourself, truth, how many entities are attached to my body? Now, what I want you to know is whatever number you get, don't judge the number, right? Because then your ego is going to get caught with it. Because you'll hear a number that might be crazy, like 500, and you're like, that can't be true, It could be, all right? So especially if you've never had a clearing statement before, you could have just had a lifetime of crap on you, and you don't realize it. So don't judge the number. Use your claircognizance. Use your primary clair, right? Either clairaudient, what you hear, clairsentient, maybe a smell, gives you a frequency number in your head. Clairvoyant, that's what you see. Claircognizant is your gut. It's just an innate knowingness, right? So we all have a primary and a secondary clair. So that's a whole nother video, but understand what your PowerPoint is from your, because we're all psychic to a degree. It just really depends on how we use it. Excuse me a moment. All right, so you say truth before the question, and I'll just use myself as an example. Truth, Justin, how many entities are attached to your body? Okay. Truth, who are you? Who were you before that? 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 Truth. Who will you be in the future? 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 Thank you. You may go now. Everything that is, like, destroy and uncreate now, times a Godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, pock, pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. All right, so the way that works is, I'll use myself as an example. I said, truth, how many entities are attached to my body? My innate I'm claircognizant. That's my main clair. That's my gut knowingness. Very common for Tauruses. Because Taurus rules the body. And it said 8, right? So I don't necessarily say the clearing statement 8 times. I say the energy clearing statement until the energy dissipates or I feel something lift. So there's a lot of ways you will experience the clearing. Either you feel something kind of lift off you. You might get goose pimples. You might cough. You might burp. You might fart. There's a lot of ways. You might laugh. There's a lot of ways that the energy works, and it really doesn't work the same way every time. I'm not trying to be funny, but just these things happen. I've had people literally pass wind on my Reiki table. Or I've had people start laughing hysterically. So 1, don't judge the number you get. 2, you run that statement until it clears. So when I say, truth, who are you? Who are you before that? You're handling the energies delicately. A lot of people just want to pick up their cross and be gone, spirits, and very hostile with the spirits. You got to understand that spirits were, they were human at one point, right? They either are lost and they got attached themselves to earth, or they got, they need to cross over in some way. Now, some of them are nasty and demonic. But you have to, verify like what you're dealing with first. You want to kind of, it's like a hostage situation. You don't want to like come in with the guns blazing. You want to try to talk the guy down a little bit. Hey, are you sure you want to do this? We get you some help. Um, how can we meet your demands? Like you don't need to come in with the crossbows and throwing, grenades when you don't have to. So understand that you're dealing with an energy body, and it's someone, you treat them as like a person. So what that is truth. Who are you? Who are you before that? You're reminding them like, oh, I'm a spirit. Who was I before that? And then you'll take them through their past lives. A lot of spirits don't realize they're dead. They're stuck here and they're just replaying the same day over and over again. So if you can raise their awareness, they'll be like, oh crap, I'm not even alive right now. What's going on? And then you say, who will you be in the future? Because we're infinite beings having a physical experience. You'll start jogging the memories of what they will be when they reincarnate. And they're like, wow, I get to have another life again. So first you remind them that they're not alive. And then that opens a channel of awareness. And then you show them what they're in the future. And then what they'll do is they'll leave on their own so they could cross over and reincarnate again and have their another life. So, those are for like, the stuck spirits, the people that might have gone through a tremendous trauma and they're, purgatory is a good word for it. They're stuck in between the veil, and then they'll just go off gracefully. Now, if you have some more challenging people, energies, which there are, you could you could level it up further. So you start the same way. Truth, who are you? Who are you before that? Who will you be in the future? And then you say this: go back from whence you came, never to return again, not this body, reality, or lifetime again. Go back from whence you came, never to return again, not this body, reality, or lifetime again. Go back from whence you came, never to return again, not this body, reality, or lifetime again. Everything that is, like destroy and uncreate now, times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, pock, pod, all nine shorts of boys and beyonds. So I'll go through that statement at the end. One, that's when you're dealing with a heavy energy that's refusing to leave and they're causing some harm. That is a little more forceful way to have them exit your reality. Let's say that the energy is in denial and doesn't want to go. That's when you break out the secondary statement. How do you know that? Well, once you go through the clearing statement, I started with truth, Justin, how many entities are in your body? I started with 8. Do the clearing statement, truth, how many entities are left on your body? If you get the answer of 1, you're clear, because 1 is yourself. You are your own entity. So anything more than 1 would suggest that you still have something left, right? And that's when you break out something a little heavier, which is the second statement I gave you. That's when you want to be a little more forceful. Like, get out of my house, right? Get off me. You're not welcome here. That's the way to handle those people. Well, not people, energies. So the idea of the clearing statement is uncreate, to destroy and uncreate. From this view is you're just not getting rid of when you deal with the ideas of judgment, energetically, judgments create limitation, right? So you don't want to get to it's not just about getting to the root of the problem, where this toxic thought, where this energy attachment, where it manifested, right? You want to get past the root of the problem. You want to get to the seed. You want to go to the root seed cause of this issue. And that starts with the seed, where it's planted. So you destroy and uncreate times a godzillion. Godzillion is infinity, we'll call it. Right and wrong. Right and wrong is a judgment. Good and bad. Good and bad is a judgment. Every time you receive a judgment, you can receive a limitation. Limitation could be energy attachment. So this idea of right, wrong, good, and bad, we destroy that idea. Everything is just a point of view. What is good to some people is bad to others, right? For example, I've received judgments through people that follow very dogmatic beliefs, right? We'll call them, a form of Christianity. They feel that what I'm doing is evil. We'll call it Reiki, the healing of touch. Even though in the Bible it talks about how there is healing of touch, of Jesus healing people with leprosy, right, by just placing of hands. So to a certain ideology, what I'm doing is bad, even though I'm healing people. Is that bad? So that's the idea how a judgment and the idea of right or wrong or good and bad could create limitations. So right, wrong, good, bad, POC and POD. All right, POC, POD is where this thought, where this attachment originated. The point of creation to the point of destruction. So again, it's gibberish. There's, some of this basically was discovered in ancient times and it was reestablished. I don't know how long some of the modalities have been around. This is something I adopted. 2008, 2007. I think it might have resurfaced well before that. But anyways, I've learned a lot of modalities over my life: Reiki, Shambhala, Access, Akashic Records, Shamanism. For those of you that go through that clearing statement process and you can't get rid of these things, at that point, you need to hire or find a practicing shaman, because the shaman could go into they have the ability, we have the ability to put ourselves through a trance state where you're kind of like in theta or a place of hypnosis, and you travel to other worlds and you work with angels, you work with we call it shamanic helper spirits, your power animals. Shamans are taught how to extract entities. It's called entity extraction. They're able to provide soul retrievals. Depossession is psychopomp. So I have depossessed people before. And you also, there's no boundaries to space, time, energy, space, and consciousness. So there's also house cleansings or the crossing over prayer. So I'm not going to give you the crossing over prayer because I think that should not be used. It could be used recklessly. If you don't know what you're doing, you get yourself in some trouble. And as far as shamanic depossession and soul retrievals, that's not something I could show you. I could pull my drum out and start beating it, but you guys really won't know what's going on. And again, when you're dealing with heavier energies like that, call or contact a seasoned shaman. Let's say you just bought a house and you have a weird feeling about it. There's no boundaries with time, space, and consciousness. So even if a shaman isn't present in that house with you, they could still negotiate with the spirits of the house, because even the house has a spirit, the house has an energy. A lot of times you need to do an offering or have an introduction with that energy. Or if you had something traumatic happen in that house and it's haunted, then a shaman could come in there and act in the role of a energetic ghostbuster and relieve you of that and the energy of that stress. So gave you 5 tips on how to deal with Neptune retrograde paired with these the emotional nature of the eclipse seasons, and providing a subtle warning of Mars and Mercury. When I talk to people, and I start my readings with a prayer, and I state that, please help me deliver the energy and the knowledge of the stars to X, Y, and Z person in a way that they could receive with ease, grace, and glory. So I suggest a couple things the next few weeks in particular, before you want to speak, before you present a point of view that could be a judgment. Ask yourself, truth, how can I deliver this message in a way for the other person to receive with ease, grace, and glory. Sometimes when you just give it up to your higher awareness, your angels, your guides, your ancestors, the highest benevolence, they'll give you the right words. And practice a 24-hour rule. There could be some heated exchanges with communication. Don't respond right away. After 24 hours, you can take the emotion out of it. This is something I used to teach my property managers when I was in marketing, and they received a negative review. And they take it personally because it feels like an attack. And I always say, wait 24 hours before you respond. Get yourself a clear head. Try to see it and from their perspective. And really what these people really want is acknowledgement. Okay. So we'll end this party with that. So anyways, this is Justin with I'm Your Aid Astrology. I'm not your coach. I'm not your guru. I'm not your guide. I'm your aid. I'm your angel in disguise. I help you, empower you. Until I talk to you again, may you all walk in beauty. Aho.